Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Rice, and his wife Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Rice.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to Mindshifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Rice. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Press 1 and that'll put you in the queue to talk. We'd love to hear from you, hear your questions or comments. Today is our Memorial Day celebration 361. It's been almost a year, gone by fast. And Michael and I are planning a trip next week, but we have got everything covered. I think the show is going to go on as always, and Dr. Tim is going to be helping us out, and that's phenomenal. We're going to hopefully be able to get in through Skype as a guest, and we'll be operating the switchboard and chat room from the Bahamas. So we'll be sending love your way, and everything will go on. So please call in next week, and we'd love to hear from you. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, sweetie. Well, here we are on a cloudy, rainy day in Fort Lauderdale, and we're delighted to be sharing this time with you. We're appreciative of you dialing in or getting onto the show, whichever way you are accessing the show or listening in the archives, that you share your valuable time with us. And we're here to support each and every person that taps into the work in learning, especially the ancient Aramaic process of forgiveness. When Jeanie talks about Memorial Day, we have an invitation. The opening of every show, the invitation is the same. If you're at war with somebody, if you're in some form of hostility or fear and thinking that it's about what somebody else has done, we're going to invite you to rethink that and put an end to the war in your life. And as each of us chooses to put an end to the wars in our lives, we change the energetic dynamic on planet Earth of war. Here's the plan. We're going to invite you to be responsible for everything that happens inside of you. We live in a culture that teaches us somebody else can cause something to happen inside of us that isn't our responsibility. And the only reason that we're experiencing what's happening inside of us is because of what they've done. And that's a fraud. It's just not true. If you're experiencing some form of hostility or fear, I would offer it has nothing whatsoever to do with what somebody else has done. It has to do with the content of your own mind. And in the ancient Aramaic language, you would never be invited to forgive another because you're in some form of hostility, fear, or pain. You'd never be invited to forgive yourself. You'd be handed a tool with which you go inside yourself and remove the source of your hostility, your fear, or your pain. So that's what we're here to support you in doing. And we invite you to pick up the phone and give us a call, 646-200-4169, 5 days a week from 1 till 2 o'clock Eastern Time. We are here with one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to support you in understanding the dynamics of the ancient Aramaic idea of forgiveness and all of course, the corollary tools that we have developed out of the ancient Aramaic. And so if you're not familiar with what we're speaking about, if that doesn't make sense to you and you have a question, we'd love to hear it. And or if you'd like to access the Aramaic tool of forgiveness, you can go to our website, www.whyagain.com. And on the right-hand side, there's a link that says Download Worksheets. If you click on that first link, under Download Worksheets, you'll see Chapter 24 of my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? Free download. second link is the actual worksheet process itself. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh links are radio shows that you can listen to where we guide somebody through the process of forgiveness. And so you're welcome to download those. We would love to hear your questions and your answers as you refine your understanding of forgiveness. Sometimes people will hear from them and say, well, my question seems so small or so silly. But the truth is, if you have a question, somebody else has the same question, and perhaps we haven't thought of it yet. And so if you'd be kind enough to call into the show and share your questions with us, your concerns, and what's happening in your mind, then we'll be here to support you in bringing forward the ancient Aramaic process of forgiveness into your world. So we thank you for being here. And, Jeanie, do we have any callers? Dr. Tim with us? David with us?
David or Tim, neither one are with us, but we do have a caller. Area code 970. You're on the air.
Hey, Jeanie and Michael. It's Carrie in Colorado.
Well, welcome, Carrie in Colorado.
Thank you. I had a really exciting night last night. I watched Codependence to Interdependence.
Oh, that is fun. Did you stay awake?
Well, as I told you yesterday, I've tried to watch it a couple of times and fallen asleep like in the first couple of minutes. And last night I thought, well, it's about 7 o'clock, I should have plenty of time to be wide awake here because I tried kind of later the other nights. And I'm not sure how long it is. I'm thinking it might be 3 hours, but maybe it's not quite that long. But I think I watched.
2.
Is that about right?
About 2.
Hours?
Just a little better than 2.
Okay. So I maybe watched an hour, hour and a half, and then I fell totally unconsciously sound asleep. And and I could kind of vaguely just hear it in the background through my sleep. And then it was still going, probably the last 10 minutes, I woke up, and it felt like the whole back of my head was becoming unnumb, like it was waking up from being numb. And
undoing unconsciousness.
Really deep unconsciousness. And when you listen to the words, it doesn't seem like it's, but here's what's really interesting that happened. At the beginning, I got an email from this guy who's been kind of interested in me, who's in Australia, who I just don't, it isn't something I want to follow through on any more than friendship. So he wrote me this letter that was kind of like, it sounded like he was kind of irritated or resentful at how I had communicated with him, just trying to keep it on a friendship level. And so as I'm going into this video, I'm getting this awful feeling inside and thinking to myself, somebody's criticizing me for telling them the truth, or by, trying to be really clear and stand as who I am instead of just conforming to what they expect of me. And then as I'm watching the video and going into this time of falling asleep, I'm thinking to myself, okay, now he wrote me that because of some energy inside myself that I have to be willing to get in touch with. And and when I woke up and I listened to the end of the video and then I looked at my email again, he had written this second, very nice, kind, little short email that said, oh, and by the way, I really like the colors on your new website that you're developing. It really looks like what your energy is probably like, and it looks like you're doing some really good things. And so it's interesting. It's almost like going through that process, for me, shifted the energy enough that I started getting a different energy from him. And anyway, it was just a very deep experience. And I know my mom had an epidural when I was born, and I've often thought through iridology. I had a line in my eye that showed some suppression to my brain because of that, and probably a feeling of I'm not wanted in this world, or it's not okay for me to be here, it's not safe, or something like that. And a friend just told me this morning that a guy that we know had done some work, and he has this lady who does energy work with him, and she had left him lying on, she's a chiropractor, but she left him lying on the table and walked out of the room and left him there for like an hour and came back, and he said, wow, I got in touch with being left when I was, right after I was born, left on a table, and they didn't know what to do with me. And he had went through that process of his head being numb and waking up from the head being numb. And that was interesting. But anyway, it was very, so I made it through probably 2/3 of the video at this point without falling asleep. So exciting,
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty awesome. And when we are drugged, or whether we use drugs or alcohol, oftentimes on a cellular level, we do numb ourselves. And the undoing, I know I've seen people who've done a lot of drugs and alcohol over their lives especially, and they get into doing process work and they just like almost instantly check out. They just, they'll be bright and awake and ready to rock and roll, and 3 minutes into the workshop, they can hardly keep their eyes open. And it is a process of peeling off and burning off that unconsciousness that's in the cellular level, and that's pretty cool that you touched into where that unconsciousness was in your structure. The other cool thing about burning that stuff off is that the mind functions through every cell in the body, and there is intelligence, there is information that we can access through every cell in the structure, and the places where we've shut down the capability, the resources, the intelligence that's there isn't available. So we'll regularly hear from people like, well, I just seem to be more capable at solving problems. I seem to be, it's like I'm almost like I'm more intelligent. And the truth is we burn off what didn't belong, we access more and more parts of our capabilities. So you should probably see some new skills showing up soon too.
Well, today, the other thing is, after I got done watching the video, I did about 5 worksheets, and what was coming up for me was this massive confusion about things I struggle with in my life and trying to sort them out. And so I just started doing worksheets on one thing after another, the best I could. And I woke up this morning, normally I'm getting teary-eyed when I'm talking to you. Now I'm laughing, and I feel like I can breathe easier. I can breathe better. I feel lighter. It's just very interesting, a lot of good shifts.
That's fabulous. Very cool. And the idea of the confusion, a lot of people say, well, gee, I started doing this work and all of a sudden I'm feeling more confused than I've ever been. It's like, yes, that is a normal stage in the process. When you look at the symptoms of healing, and there are some shows in the archives on the healing process, there are 3 levels upon which healing happens, and on a physical level, it's any kind of physical symptom you've ever had in low energy. On a mental level, it's any kind of negative thought you've ever had in confusion. On an emotional level, it's any kind of negative feeling in depression. And so when you think in terms of this structure being an energy system and what's been locked into the system, when you start unlocking, it starts to move, it creates effects. And, I use an example oftentimes in the workshop of imagine I have a red light, a blue light, and a green light, and I shine on that white wall up there, and you see red, blue, and green. And scientifically, we know that there's no such thing as red, blue, and green, that that's just the way our brain interprets certain frequencies. And that's why some people are colorblind. Their brain doesn't interpret the same way. But red isn't a color. Red is a wave shape. And so if I take the wave shape that we call red, green, and blue, and instead of shining them individually on the white wall, I shine them all in the same space, those frequencies are literally additive and subtractive, and I'm not going to get clear red, blue, or green. I'm going to get some mixture of the 3, which would be the equivalent of confusion in the mind. And when we hold energies that are off base with truth, and open up and begin to process those things, and they come forward in the presence of truth, they are frequencies, as truth is a frequency. And they're, like the light energies, additive and subtractive. So when they hit each other in the brain at the same time, we get confusion. That's just a step in the process. So you got to peel through that confusion and that unconsciousness. And it sounds like you're just heading to a whole new level. And of all the workshops that I do, to me, besides why is this happening to me again, the codependence workshop is the most exciting and the most insightful, I think, in terms especially of relationship. And it always still boggles my mind how that workshop comes together and how clearly it lays out the process.
It'd be fun to make it all the way through it one of these days. I mean, I'm sure I was getting it at some level, but it'd be fun to make it all the way through it with my conscious mind. I'd be really excited about that. So it is amazing. I mean, I can definitely say that over the last few weeks even, as I've been going deeper and deeper and deeper into this work and into my own stuff, I have felt kind of a bogged downness, a confusion, a frustration, like I've had probably weeks of that. And I feel like last night was kind of a breakthrough, so exciting.
Fabulous. Well, congratulations. And you obviously have our support, and we clearly have yours, and we appreciate it and love being on your team. And, over the months that you've been involved in the work, appreciate all of your input, your questions, your thoughts, and the fact that you're sharing the work with people out there in Colorado is fabulous. And, of course, we want to support you with your book on super immunity, which is available through our website and available through CarrieEllis.com. That's who we're speaking with. Carrie Ellis, the author of Super Immunity and the soon-to-be published 21st Century Superhuman, right?
Yep, that's right.
Cool. Fabulous.
Well, listen, you guys have an awesome trip, and thank you so much. And, again, thanks for this work. I just consider it one of the huge keys available to us in our civilization today, and really essential to taking the next step. So thanks to you guys both and the whole team that you have for doing this work.
Cool. All right, blessings. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
So our calling number is 646-200-4169. Jeanie, do we have any callers? Anything happening in the chat room?
We have no other callers, and there's no questions in the chat room. Keep on walking. Dr. Tim is with us now.
Say again, sweetie?
Dr. Tim is with us.
Oh, welcome, sir. How do you be this afternoon? How's the weather in Chicago?
Beautiful. It's getting warm. They're predicting it'll hit 90 today.
90? Oh, geez, we're in the 70s here in Fort Lauderdale. It's raining and cloudy, and so that's an interesting reversal.
Yeah, I'm not going to shed any tears for you. It won't last forever, as we know.
That's for sure. That's one of the things about Florida. They say just wait 15 minutes and turn around, although today this has been pretty steady all day, so. But it's the rainy season. Actually, it's a little early, they tell me, for the rainy season here in Florida. So it's still nice to be here, and we'll be hopping on an airplane Saturday morning. And it looks like we should be able to Skype into the show as a guest and also, be able to do the chat room and such. So we'll just see how it all falls together, and we appreciate your support and being on the show next week. And do you have anything on your mind today or anything that you'd like to share?
Well, just a lot more of the energy moving. When I talk to people about this work, I mentioned yesterday the idea of pain and discomfort really just being the indication that I've stored too much negative energy, bad emotions, or denied and suppressed reactions to things in my body system for too long. And that the emotions being the warning sign to me that I'm focusing on thoughts that are inappropriate and unproductive. And I mentioned that in my business networking group this morning, and there's a chiropractor in the group, and he was giving a talk, and he just echoed it. He said, yep, there's a set of statistics that circulates through chiropractic groups that says at least 80% of the back pain and low back pain is related to unresolved emotions. And, of course, there's a gentleman that you know about who used to be a back surgeon who now doesn't do any more surgery.
Right.
His name, but...
Sarno. Dr. Sarno. Doing some great stuff.
And so, we just I don't think we can say it enough, because we're trying to overcome a conditioning that's decades, if not centuries old and pervasive, that says if you have a physical ache or pain, it's because you lack some kind of drug or you need some kind of surgery. And I think we really just need to keep putting the message out there that if you've got a physical ache or a pain and you identify the energy flow and the negative emotions and the false thoughts that go with it and remove them through a process like the forgiveness process, dismantling it and getting it out of your system, the system heals. The pain moves to someplace else or goes away altogether. And it's just mind-boggling. It's every bit as mind-boggling, I would assume, as those people who were raised prior to the 1500s who were told the earth is flat, and they all knew it was flat. They all believed it. They knew it. They had stories about it. They had experts that could tell them that. They had parents and great-grandparents and great-grandparents that all knew it, until all of a sudden they didn't know that, and they knew something else. And the idea that...
And still a flat earth society.
Yeah, there still is.
It's still out there. There are people who still hold to that theory.
Yeah, and I don't really think that the medical community, as it exists today, needs to be worried about people like us that are finding out a different actuality than the reality they would have us hold on to, because I don't think everybody's going to buy into it. But for those who are willing and a little adventurous and willing to explore, I just want to extend the invitation. Explore the possibility that the next time you get an ache or a pain, the solution doesn't lie in another drug to suppress the symptoms or another escapist behavior, which is going to add to the problems by giving you negative thoughts about yourself and conclusions. And explore the possibility that if you pick up these tools and are willing to sit with the energy that you're labeling as pain and explore its roots and the emotions that feed it and the thoughts that created those emotions, that you might be able to dismantle it and move to a whole different level of health and vitality than you had ever imagined. So
well, there's a... Go ahead.
I said those are my thoughts for today.
I'll echo it all. And there's a book, I forget the author's name offhand, but The Nature of Scientific Revolution, written by a double PhD. I think I forget whether he's Harvard or Princeton or one of the big schools, and a scientist. And he talks about the fact that old so-called scientific ideas die off when the old scientists die, and not before. It's just like every other kind of idea, that once somebody's got a hold of it and they think it's true, then the chance of them letting go, their commitment to their cognition, as we've talked about before on the show, is very deep. And so even though for decades we've had scientists like Einstein telling us matter doesn't exist, and the recognition that we live in an energy system rather than a physical universe, the ideas of a physical universe don't die off easily. And when you start to develop the brain cells to see through the eyes of energetic systems theory and understand that we are energetic systems, and relative to the system, there are energies that belong and energies that don't. And, of course, we call them negative or bad or evil or what have you, but it's just, there's certain energies that serve your life process and certain ones that don't. And when you recognize that you're in some form of hostility, fear, or pain, that's the indicator that what's firing in your structure is an energy that just doesn't serve your life purpose and your life structure. So as you start to look at it and apply the tool of forgiveness, oftentimes you'll uncover things that, as Gary was just sharing, go way back, memories of childhood, and oftentimes memories of ancestors. There's an interesting video that There's a link on the website. You can watch it free online. It's called The Ghost in Your Genes, and the scientists are now starting to recognize scientifically, supposedly, it's an interesting word that kind of is put forward as, and this has the official stamp of approval of the real geniuses. Well, we're all in the same boat. And the willingness to give up the old BS, that's of course the old belief systems about physical, when we know we live in an energetic universe. There are many people who are committed to, if you can't taste, touch, smell, hear, feel it, or see it, then it doesn't exist. When we know scientifically, for instance, there are millions of different radio waves in the space you're in right now. We could tune into any one of 1,000 different radio stations. Just because you can't touch them or experience them with your senses doesn't mean they don't exist. It's the same within your structure. So you start to see through the eyes of energy, and that's the main thrust of the workshop. Why is this happening to me again? And the main thrust of the forgiveness process is moving out the energies that just never belonged in your life in the first place. Interestingly enough, in the ancient Aramaic language, the word that described engaging in an energy that never belonged in your structure in the first place is the word sin. It's got nothing to do with some terrible, evil, awful thing you've done. It's simply an archery term, and it means off the mark. So engage in an energy that's off the mark and you've sinned. Put sin in your tissue structure, and your tissue structure starts to fall apart. You get enough tissue falling apart, and you die. Oh my goodness, what did the ancients say? The wages of sin is death. The result of engaging in what doesn't belong is you die. And we do it to ourselves. Time to stop doing it. If it's connected to hostility or fear, start to forgive about it. Start to let go of the conversations based in hostility or fear. It's interesting how many people, speak of a deity that they call love, and then the rest of their conversation is about how terrified you should be and how to live in fear and intimidation and threat and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and on it goes, and how worthless and, hopeless and helpless you are. And the truth is, you're the offspring of the Creator. You're not worthless, helpless, or hopeless. All the rest of that stuff is a sin. It's all an energy that's off the mark. It doesn't belong in your structure. Let it go. And, of course, there are those who, have been brainwashed with the thought, if I ever let go of that, then I'm really going to be in trouble. And so they hang out with it and degrade the quality of their own lives by holding to that which is based in hostility or fear. So we're here to change that conversation into one where you recognize yourself as the substance of love. When you hold a newborn child, you know exactly what human life is, and that is your substance, and we join you in holding and having that substance and extending it and sharing it with everyone around you. So, Jeanie, do we have any questions in the chat room? Any callers on the phone? Our calling number, of course, is 646-200-4169. We would love to hear your sweet voice. Every question is most welcome. If you're doing worksheets and something about it doesn't make sense, or, if you look under the download worksheet section there, I don't even know how many links, 20, 30, 40 links, each one of them to different tools. And if there are any of those tools that you connect in with that you don't understand, we'd love to be able to share with you our understanding of it and enhance your ability to use it. And perhaps as you put it to work, you'll discover pieces of the puzzle that we haven't discovered yet, and you'll be able to feed that back to us and support us in learning it on a new level, in a new way. So as we move together in this process, it is an awesome opportunity. And we appreciate you being here to be part of it. Go ahead.
We have 3 callers. So the first one is area code. First one is area code 901. You're on the air.
901. Welcome to the show. Where are you calling from? And give us a name. 901. You're on the air. Gee, it sounds like maybe they've turned away from the phone. Maybe you want to put them on hold, and we'll take another call and go back to them.
Okay, we'll do that. So the next one is area code 517. You're on the air.
Hi, Michael. This is Tony.
Hi, Tony. Welcome. How are things in Lansing? It must be from speaking with Dr. Tim, not too far, Lansing from Chicago. You guys must be pretty hot up there, too.
Yeah. It's been a lot of sun lately, and we're looking to get some rain for the fields.
Aha. Well, we'll send a little up here from Lauderdale. We've been here almost 2 weeks now, and it's rained just about every day, so we do have some spare here. We'll send your way. All
right. That'll be good. Well, just listening to your conversation, it just brought up a question that I've had every now and then around this idea of our storing pain in our body and physical manifestations of that. And so my question would be, what would that look like as far as a worksheet? Like I've noticed I've had a pain in my elbow, and just through the worksheet process, I've noticed that it's gone. And then I've noticed a pain come up in my knee, and just doing the process, it sometimes comes and goes, but it seems to be lingering there. And do you do a worksheet specifically on the pain, or would you say that it's a result of other issues, is what my understanding. So it's not necessarily you do a worksheet around the pain that's there, right? You understand?
You could do it. You could be. I would advise that you look at what's going on in your world when all of a sudden this pain starts to show up, and are you in the middle of a conflict with yourself or with someone? What's going on? And let me share a place where it was a real learning experience for me in two ways. One was just learning the dynamic of what the energy of pain is, and two was a stage for me in understanding that we have to learn to decode the messages that are within us, the messages of pain, the messages of frustration, stress, anger, rage, that beneath it there are messages. And to be able to listen to those messages and decode them. Generally speaking, what we've done in the past is we've denied and dissociated from them and lost the ability to decode the information that's there. In the therapeutic world, you can go pay somebody $150 an hour to hook you up to a machine to tell you what your body's been trying to tell you all along. And the only reason we pay $150 to somebody to get hooked up to a machine is because we haven't wanted to listen directly to what's going on in there. And over the generations, I think we've lost the ability to decode some of the information that's going on inside of us because we haven't wanted to own it or deal with it. I used to be in the restaurant business, and I had left the restaurant world to go into doing this work back about 34, 35 years ago, something in that. No, more than that. No, it's more like 39, 40 years ago. Left the restaurant business and went into doing this work full time. And while I was going to school after that, I lived in Atlanta, and there was a small little restaurant, really good food kind of restaurant that I used to eat at all the time. And the fellow who was the proprietor of the restaurant knew I'd been in the business. I had about 4,000 seats in 3 different locations. And so he asked me if I would come to a franchise meeting that he was setting up. He was going to franchise his stores. And he had his chef there, and, they're doing this meeting. And I'm sitting in the meeting, and all of a sudden, I had this excruciating pain on the left-hand side of my neck, and literally one of the muscles in my neck pulls so tight that it actually pulls my head off to one side. And I was oblivious as to anything going on inside of me, except this, what I now saw was a warning signal, and I'm offering this story because the pain in your knee or the pain in your elbow may be your warning signal that when you learn to decode it is telling you something. So I'm sitting there, and I've got this like really sharp pain in my neck, and my head's pulled off to one side. So I kind of tuned out of the presentation that was being done by this chef to go inside and ask the question, what's going on? What is this all about? And, to me it was a stage and a step in learning to decode the inner messages of a voice that I had previously silenced. And, I invite people in the workshops to recognize that one of the skills you're going to develop is the ability to decode your own internal messages. And if you never develop that ability, then the purpose of life will be to send you somebody with the decoder, somebody who will play it out in spades in your world. So in this particular case, this chef gets up to speak and do a presentation to this small group of people that these people are thinking about buying franchises. So I tune out of the meeting, and I'm like, what is this? And I breathe a little bit, do some forgiveness work, and all of a sudden the memory of about the third year I was in my first restaurant, I had bought a location. It was this awesome building. I mean, this log cabin, beautiful landscaping, but the business had closed down. And so I had bought this location. It had gone through several hands and had failed several times. And I've been working for about a year and a half or so to rebuild it, and had a major opportunity. There was a fellow in the city that I was in that owned a bar, and he'd been in business for 40 years, and he passed away. And it was a rather small town, and I had the only location that was large enough to have his wake. And so they came to me and asked if they could rent the location and if we do the food and all. And so, yes, so it was really a wonderful opportunity because it opened up and gave us access to all of, the mayor of the town, the local town councilman, the liquor license board, director. I mean, everybody that was anybody in the political system within 100 miles came to this wake for this fellow. And it was like by far the largest event we'd had in the time that I had owned this restaurant. And I didn't know it until the next day, but the fellow that I'd hired as a chef, I'd never seen any sign of alcohol. But when stressed, he turned to alcohol, and he got drunk that night. He was up all night with chicken dinners for about 400 people. And we served the dinner, and the chicken was raw inside. And it just totally destroyed a year and a half or more of work. And as I'm sitting there, now this is about 4 years later that I'm sitting in this franchise meeting, and the chef gets up to speak, triggers this, and this pain in my neck and this muscle tightening up. And when I got in touch with, the chef's name was Joe, what I got in touch with was that this energy that was locking up in my neck was hatred for Joe for having destroyed a year and a half of work and really set the whole project back immeasurably. And so 4 years later, this meeting, and the fellow with the decoder, the chef, gets up to speak and triggers, bang, up this comes in me. And so I really learned about decoding the information within ourselves that we usually deny and dissociate from. If anybody had asked me in the 4 years from when that event happened, I did let Joe go. I did fire him, but I just said, well, that's just the way it is. It happened. That's the way it goes. But hatred for Joe? No, not me. Never. Well, that was my message, and that was my learning in that situation. So it sounds like perhaps this pain in your knee or your elbow is your warning signal. It's your invitation to take a look at what kind of Joe is in there and what needs to be dealt with.
So what might I do to tap into that ability to decode would it look like sitting down and just writing out a question? What is it that I need to look at?
Well, back when I had this event happen that I just shared with you, I didn't have worksheets at that time. I hadn't developed a worksheet at that time. But if I were doing a worksheet on that now, if I'd have been sitting in that room and I had a worksheet with me, I would mark down, in number 1A, the chef. What happened? He gets up to speak, and I have this horrendous pain in my neck. And what's my feeling? Well, kind of numb, as Carrie was sharing earlier, this numbness that burned off. And what's my thought? Well, don't really have one. Don't know what's going on here. This is just out of the blue. So do I have a punishment thought? No. What do I want? Well, I want to be able to sit here and be physically comfortable as I listen to this chef do his presentation. And then to cancel the goal, and that would be the space where, in that case, as I'm breathing and touching in, where I'd have the opportunity to drop to the next level of what I've denied and dissociated from. If I go back, my conversation around this issue would be, well, now that I'm in touch with this hatred toward Joe, my languaging when I was unconscious, living in the unconscious, the standard world, my language would be, well, Joe just about destroyed my business, and I just hate him for it. He just caused all this rage and hate in me. Today, my language would be more of, well, now I recognize that Joe gave me an opportunity to look at some pain, some rage, some hatred that I have, and to move through that. So when I give my mind permission to show me, and my words will reflect whether I give it permission or not. When I have a conversation about somebody else, he really made me angry, I'm dissociating from my anger. I'm saying I don't want to decode what this anger is about or feel what's underneath it. When I move into responsibility language, such as, when this occurred, it brought a lot of anger up for me, then I'm giving my mind permission to show me that this is mine and that I can learn to decode what I've dissociated from and undo it and let it go. So that would kind of be how that would look for me. So if I were you, I'd look at what's the circumstance. What was I doing? I was sitting in the boss's office, and he's chewing me out, and all of a sudden I have this pain in my knee. And, what I really came in to do was to ask the boss for a raise because, the bills have just, the prices have gotten so crazy. I just don't have enough money, and I need a raise. I really need that. So, oftentimes you can tie in certain thoughts with different parts of the structure. For instance, needs oftentimes have to do with needs being met. There's an interesting book by a woman named Louise Hay called Who's the Matter with Me? You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. The other book I'm referring to, Who's the Matter with Me, is actually a really sweet little lady named Alice Steadman, who I worked with 30 years ago in Atlanta. She was in her 70s, and she was a fireball. She was from a medical family, and her slant, her direction went into not what's the physical problem with me and what do I need to cut on or butcher or what do I need to take a drug over, but rather who's the matter with me? What am I? Who am I? Putting this on. And so you might look at those and then look at the circumstance in which you become aware of that pain and take that as your cue. That's what's resonating, that lost in tissue or that trauma in tissue.
Okay, that makes sense. I appreciate
cool. Well, let
that.
us know how it unfolds. I've had people who have worked through issues. I know I used to have a problem with one of my knees, and I'd have to reset it. I'm going to go in and have to one day have surgery on this. And actually, Jeanie and I were out in Los Angeles at a conference 4 or 5 years ago, and I had a bicycle, quote unquote, accident, And part of the bike accident was I landed on this knee, which I'd previously had to set in place, maybe every couple of months. It was like the disc in there was sliding out of place. And I'm going to have to go in and get orthoscopic surgery and get this taken care of. Well, as I worked through whatever that issue was, and then I just conveniently had this bike accident that totally completed that challenge with my knee. And I haven't had to set it once since that so-called accident. So you find yourself coming into situations that will help you to rectify some of those challenges in your form as you work through the issue that's behind it.
Okay. Well, that clarifies quite a bit, actually. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Glad to be on the team, Tony.
All right.
Glad to have you on ours.
Great. Me too.
All right. Blessings. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. So, Jeanie, shall we try that? Was it 907 number? Should we try that again?
They actually hung up, but we have another number. It's 561. You're on the air.
Hey, it's Margaret in Boca Raton, Florida. Hi.
Hey, who are we speaking to?
Margaret in Boca Raton, Florida.
Oh, Margaret. Hey there, young lady. Here's half of our support group leader team from Boca Raton. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. We had our group last night, and we had a couple of new faces, and it was really nice. And I think people, the people that have come a couple of times, I think perhaps they gained a greater understanding, a deeper level. And the new people were both quite enthusiastic, so it was really nice to see and be part of.
Awesome. Were there any particular breakthroughs that happened that you might share and inspire us with?
I
hear you have a lot of the birds in the background enjoying the show.
I do. I tried to muffle the sound. But last night, Mike had done a worksheet about his daughter as we were walking people through the process, and I know that he gained more peace out of doing it, but we started a little late, so we didn't have a lot of time at the end to discuss breakthroughs. So I'm not really certain, but I know that everyone left there smiling and with a lot of gratitude for having the opportunity to learn this.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, every Wednesday night at Dr. George Love's office, Michael and Margaret do a support group using the Why Is This Happening to Me Again tools. And glad to have you both on the team.
Thank you. We're grateful. We're grateful to have the team, and we're grateful to be part of it as well. And thank you very much. And the address for Dr. Love, in case anyone needs it, is 365 Northeast 5th Street in Boca Raton 33432, and it's every Wednesday 7 to 9 p.m.
Cool.
Thank you both.
Well, we are going to be heading up to Boca tonight. We had told Nene that we would be at her support group, which happens right over near CSL in Boca at Palmetto. It's actually just south of CSL at Palmetto and 95 there. So if you guys get a chance to come join us for, I believe it's at 7:30. Isn't it tonight, Jeanie?
They start meeting at 7:15 and they begin promptly at 7:30.
Okay, great. We'll be there.
So we'd love to see you guys. Awesome. And the address, I don't have the address in front of me, but it's on the website. You can give us a shout later and we'll give it to you.
Okay, I'll find it. Thank you so much.
Fabulous. All right. Well, and maybe Nene is on the phone. Actually, I have the address in my phone, so I'll, as we're checking out whether we've got any other callers, I will see if I can pull it up here.
Thank you.
There are no other callers, and nobody has their hands up or questions in the chat room. So.
Cool. Okay. Well, the support group tonight is at the home of Gus Barney, and his address is 1450 Southwest 17th Street. So it's 1450 Southwest 17th Street in Boca. The zip code is 33486. And if you just get off of Palmetto, go east on Palmetto off of 95, and turn right on 12th where you head past CSL, just a few blocks down from there. So look forward to seeing you here tonight.
Thank you so much. We'll be there. Have a lovely day.
All right, you too. Blessings. Thanks for calling.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, we're down to about 9 minutes. 646-200-4169. If you're on the switchboard, press 1. It puts your hand up, lets me know that you want to talk. So type the question.
Go ahead. If by chance you have pushed 1 and you're not getting through, please find a way to let us know so that we can get with Blog Talk. We have had some serious difficulties in the last couple of weeks in keeping the switchboard operating properly. So if you could let us know if there's a problem on your end, if you're not getting through when you're trying to, we'd love to hear from you. And was it 903, again, the caller that called in a few minutes ago? And if you're still listening, we did answer your call, but it sounded like you were away doing something else, so we went on to the next caller. So we'd love to hear from you if you have a question for us and you are that caller that we missed. Please call back in and you'll be next in line to chat with us. So, Dr. Tim, do you have any other thoughts to add to the conversation based on what everybody's been sharing? The questions.
Actually, Dr. Tim just disappeared too.
Oh, okay. Well, gee. Did we do something wrong, Tim? No, I know. He's probably got clients and busy times. So anyway, 646-200-4169. If you and I were sitting in a room alone, what would your question be for me? Your question is everybody's question. If you would call and ask it, we would love to hear it. Otherwise,
hands up, area code 607, you're on the air.
Hey, Michael and Jeanie, it's Richard again. How you doing?
Hey, young man, I'm blessed. Doing well.
Well, obviously, I'm dealing with a situation that's bringing up a lot of hostility and anger and fear in me, and obviously I've realizing how quickly my body wants to generate those feelings and the thoughts associated with it, and so it's an interesting process, certainly. Right, but I think part of the process is the worksheet helps you recognize when those things are coming up for you, so you can let them go rather than letting it take over your system. And so I just wanted to make that sort of a point of awareness about the work and how it really is about awareness in some respects, because it really helps you increase your awareness to when these things are coming up and to be able to deal with them in a responsible manner. So just wanted to add that comment in.
Cool. And, you've given us a couple of calls, and I assume this is still around the issue that you were working on that you called about last week and a couple of times with the people who...
This is actually a different issue.
Oh, we're on another one, eh? Okay, cool. Well, then we're just here to support you and see it moving through.
Right.
And but what I was going to share is that you had called and there were some friends who or some folks you do a meeting with, and there were some friends who came to that, and when you were away 1 week, some of the other people in the meeting kind of dissed them and wanted to get rid of them. And the point I was going to make was the importance of identifying as precisely as possible exactly what the goal is that you're using, that you're doing the worksheet on. And, with that situation, it was, as you started to talk, I was making an assumption that you were talking about the issue you called in a couple of times before. But
no, just to be clarify the issue, I recently found out that this place where I've been renting for the last 2 years have made the decision not to rent the space to me and rent to someone else, and so I'm feeling a little, I had made made some financial commitments by putting in a floor and things like that, and they're not willing to, it's just a matter of feeling like I'm being used in some respects. I put in a new floor, and they're not willing to pay me for the floor that I put in there, and whatever. It's an issue, and so I'm a little, to say the least, ticked off about it. So I'm dealing with my feelings of anger, hostility, and rage over this, and of course, your whole thing here is about learning to let go of that anger and hostility, that war that's going on inside, and so that's part of my issue of letting that go. Hello?
I'm here.
Okay, I thought I lost you maybe. So anyway, but I'm certainly recognizing when these feelings are coming up now. I'm just pointing out to everybody that doing these worksheets allows you to become really more aware when this stuff's coming up for you, and recognizing the thoughts behind it, what's the and the feeling, because there's some things that I recognize as patterns in my life. One of them being the fight, flight, flee response of getting into an argument and then fleeing the situation. So and the feelings that are behind that. So that's part of the trauma response, and recognizing that part of the thing of coming to get terms with the trauma response is recognizing that pattern to begin with, the fight, flight, flee response.
Right, exactly.
And, so, one of the things that I've definitely come to a recognition about is that's been a dominating pattern in my life for sure, and so I'm starting to deal with that. And,
good one to let go of.
Really.
Awesome.
Anyway.
All right, sir, we appreciate you. We'll look forward to seeing you in just a few weeks at Heartland.
All right.
Okay, take care. Blessings. Bye-bye. So, Jeanie, you've got another caller for us?
We do. Area code 786. You're on the air.
Hi, Michael and Jeanie. This is Julio calling in.
Hey there, young man.
How are you, sir?
We do well. How about you?
Thank you. Great. Thank you. I was just listening to you, and I believe that the information that you gave out about tonight's meeting, Nene's meeting, may be incorrect. Her meeting tonight is for the Latin group, and I know that's not the address that you gave. I don't have it with me to correct it, but because I'm still trying to get that information from Nene herself. So,
okay, well then,
there.
Thank you. Then that's probably for tomorrow night's group then.
Yes, it is.
Then it's correct. Coral Springs is the Latin group. Thank you for catching that. My mistake. It's Coral Springs, and if you go to the website, the address is on the website for the Coral Springs group. I don't have that in front of me, but it is on the
your
website.
website?
Yes, on whyagain.com under support groups.
Okay, great. I will go there.
There should be a flyer there for it. So, but thank you for catching me on that, or we'd have had people heading off to Gus's, and Gus would be wondering, where all these people are coming.
That's why I immediately tried to call in and get on.
Okay, are you going to be there tonight in Coral Springs?
I plan to be there, yes.
Awesome. We'll look forward to seeing you, sir.
All right, great. See you guys later.
Blessings. Take care. Bye-bye.
Blessings to you.
And that address in Coral Springs is 10966 Northwest 8th Court, Coral Springs, Florida. That's 10966 Northwest 8th Court, Coral Springs, Florida. And they start at, people coming in at 7:15 and they start at 7:30.
Fabulous. All right, well, we're just about complete, so we invite you to bring somebody to the show with you tomorrow, stranger, and to use these tools to create the best year yet of your eternal life when we join you in that. Have a blessed one. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Mind Shifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Rice, and his wife, Jeanie, who present that internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeanie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.